Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, broadcasting live via YouTube, via SpookySouthCoast.com, via the Spooky South Coast app. That's the only way that you can hear the show tonight because we have the Patriots airing on WBSM, and that's going to take up the whole night. So there's no way we're going to get on the radio at all because the pregame show is like 2.5 hours long. I mean, the postgame show. So I don't even have to worry about pressing any buttons over here. I don't have to worry about clicking anything. We're just going to talk here on the YouTubes and on the interwebs and doing it online because that's the only way that we can do it tonight. And we are going to talk about the paranormal. That's what we talk about each and every Saturday night. We're going to start off things by discussing some pretty interesting news that broke this week. And then in the second hour, we're going to talk about something that's been going on for a couple of weeks with our guest, Lon Strickler. And that is something that I haven't really been following. So we'll have Lon fill us in on that, and we'll find out more about these strange sightings that have been going on in the Chicago area.
Very interesting.
Lon's a great guy. He is a fantastic researcher. I remember talking with him when we were way back when we were working on Ghost Stalkers and getting some of his information about some hauntings and different cryptid sightings that were happening around one of our episodes. So we'll talk about that recent thing that's been going on in Chicago, the Chicago area, coming up in the next hour. But before that, I want to talk about some breaking news that happened in the paranormal over the past week. Now, when I say breaking news, I'm not talking about the premiere of Haunted Towns, which was on Tuesday night.
Yes, it was.
As Donald Trump would say, biggest ratings, huge. Like,
it was very good.
The entire world was watching. I think that it was a very good response for the premiere, considering the fact that people could watch it a week beforehand on the Destination America app. And now everybody's hooked with that.
Right.
They keep asking me, like, when's the second episode going up on the app? Well, probably not until it airs on TV.
Right.
Like, this was what they call a tease.
Well, everybody that listens to the show and has listened to me for the past 4 years or so knows that I'm not really a fan of watching paranormal television or horror movies or anything like that. I'm not really into it, but I decided because of my friendships with the guys and obviously with you, I would give Haunted Towns a shot. And I have to say, I actually really enjoyed it.
I love the fact that you get to see the personalities of the investigators, which is, people said to me when I said, they're taking the Tennessee Wraith Chasers and they're putting them into this new format where they'll be in entire towns instead of just having to be cooped up in one haunted asylum or prison or jail or whatever. And people said, oh yeah, but those guys don't really seem to have a lot of like chemistry or personality. I'm like, but they do. You're just not seeing that in the Ghost Asylum format because they took it so seriously. And so with this show, you get to see a little bit more of the personality come through. And so I think that that's something that a lot of people were sending me tweets and messages and saying, wow, those guys are really funny. Like, yeah, well, that's the kind of stuff
they really are, though.
That's the kind of stuff that got cut out of the other show because it just wasn't the kind of tone that they were setting. But this show is about, if we're going to send them to everyday American towns, let's show that they're just everyday American guys.
Right, and they relate to people better in that form as well. Interviewing people and being able to even relate to the audience at home, just showing that you're a regular person, you're no different. It's just a different job than what somebody else might have. I liked it. I laughed. And
I was way more involved in this show than I have been in previous seasons. So, like, I know every single thing. I know the entire, like, how the whole shoot went. And I'm watching it, and I'm watching the clock, being like, they're still in the military. They have another place to go to. Like,
I thought that too when I was watching.
I'm like, what happened? Did they not get anything at the other place? Yep. And so it was a little nerve-wracking in that regard, but it felt like it was over in a flash.
I think it left me wanting more because the evidence that they caught at both locations was phenomenal. And I made a phone call to one of the guys after the show, after I watched it. I said, did that actually happen? Because obviously working in TV, you know how editing can,
yeah, well, they're not misrepresenting anything.
No, they did not at all. And, we've heard of other shows doing that, with editing. And I know even my episode of Kindred Spirits, I know how it was edited. I know what I did first in the episode, but it was edited so that way it was almost flip-flopped, but nothing was changed.
People don't understand, like, like one of the things when we say like things aren't exactly as they're filmed,
Right.
like they might say to you 17 times, we need you to walk through that door again.
Yes, they do.
And that's got nothing to do with the investigation itself.
Not
that
at
all
all.
has
It's
to do with
just
the
for
presentation
TV.
of it.
But I did ask, I said, did the evidence actually happen like that? Was it that profound? And he said, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how it happened. And they were shocked by the evidence as well. So
I'll be very forthright. I don't hear Abraham Lincoln in that clip. You know, everybody else does. I don't hear it.
We've had this discussion before, though, about EVPs and how people do hear them differently. And, you know, that was one of the things that we discussed as well, too, is if you could have heard that in person, it sounded so different than TV. TV did not do it justice, but I still heard it myself.
I will. Well, I mean, it sounded more like it was saying President Lincoln to me.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. But I
Interesting.
mean,
I'll have to go back and listen to it and see if I can hear that.
I don't know. You know, I think time will only tell, you know, what happens with these future episodes. But I think coming out of the gate, I was very happy with the way things worked.
Oh, yeah.
I was nervous. I didn't get to see a lot of the advanced stuff. So I was a little bit nervous about how it was going to play out. And, you know, it just, and not that I was worried about, you know, how are they going to portray the investigation or all that. Or I'm just saying, in my mind, I was part of the team that helped pick the 8 locations they go to.
Right.
And I hope it delivered, and it seemed that it did.
I think so, and I think it was really cool for me to have been kind of behind the scenes with you the entire time, watching how hard you worked in the show, and, you know, talking back and forth with you about, you know, some of the things that might happen, and then watching it all come to life was really cool.
The biggest thing that people are going to have to realize about this show is they are, and we'll just wrap this up because I don't want to spend the whole time talking about the show. But one of the things that people are commenting about is they're saying, well, you know, you went to Gettysburg, but you didn't go to this place. You didn't do this place. You didn't do that place. And, they're going to Salem, so they must be doing this place or this place. That's not the idea of the show. The idea of the show is to go to places that you haven't already seen on TV. The idea is to go to other places that are having the same phenomena that don't have the same spotlight on them.
Right.
So when we go to Salem, you're not going, I'm going to just give you a little bit of a spoiler right now. You're not going to see the witch house. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not going to see the Hawthorne Hotel. You're not going to see places where other people might have gone in the past. You're going to see new locations that still tie in and connect to because we already know those other places have activity. So now we're going to these other places to see what we can find and how that can all tie into the bigger picture of what these hauntings are all about.
I like that idea.
Just keep that in mind when you're watching these episodes. We're never going to take you exactly where you thought. In fact, we're probably going to drive by right where you thought we were going to go and take you somewhere completely different and unexpected. So keep that in mind. Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, Destination America. The TWC boys go to Salem. Should be a great episode. I think the next one after that is Savannah.
I don't know.
And then they haven't released the rest of the order yet. Like, we don't even know what order they're going in yet.
Really?
The network hasn't told us. So, they have a rough schedule.
Right.
Like, we were talking about when an episode's supposed to air.
Yes.
But it still might not. Like, they're still...
It could be before or after.
They're still flip-flopping things, you know? And it all depends on, I think, you know, where the journey takes the viewers.
Right.
You know, and that's what I think is interesting. Because usually they'll look at it and they'll say, I mean, this is just a little bit behind the scenes of Paranormal TV. They'll say, well, we need a place that's well-known and had a lot of activity for the premiere, and we need a place that's well-known and had a lot of activity for the season finale.
Yep.
So that we can kind of bookend it with, you know, very buzzworthy episodes. But I think that with these, they were kind of all buzzworthy. So it's more of a matter of like, okay, well, where can we go on this journey? And so far, I think it's going the way that they went, you know, chronologically. Right. So we'll see what happens in the future. And speaking of the TWC and speaking of the Haunted Towns cast, we were just talking before the show came on the air, and I got a little bit of information that I kind of knew was going to happen, but we got the official confirmation, as official as we can, since it came directly from his PR person now. But on September 23rd, we have an event for sale, a Spooky South Coast event that's been put up on the site. It's called Lizzie's Axe to Fall. I was proud of that title. Stephanie didn't get it.
Listen.
But it's the second day of fall.
Yes.
Fall starts on the 22nd. So Lizzie's Axe to Fall, like the axe is going to fall, but also it's the start of fall. This is how we're kicking off the autumn season with Spooky South Coast. So Stephanie and myself will be leading an investigation of the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast, but I figured this, I didn't even ask you before I started promoting it
No,
as
you
this way,
didn't.
but only because we've had this format on the back burner
Right.
forever and said we'll just find a good place where it works.
I just roll with what you tell me to do.
And I think that this is the time to do it, that this is the time that it'll actually work. But what we're going to do, we're going to be in a house that's from the 1800s. We're going to be in a house that is associated with a Victorian era murder. So what we're going to do is we're going to finally follow through on our plan of doing a night of investigating that is both old school and new school techniques. So we're going to focus on some of the things that might have been spirit communication of the spiritualist era. Obviously, we have a psychic medium with us, so that base is covered. But, you know, we can have you bring your table
Right.
and do table tipping. We can try some of these other techniques that people would have used, like even the basic stuff.
Right.
You know, like even stuff that we try on every other investigation, like people use pendulums or they use dowsing rods, but all that stuff would have been applicable to that era.
Right.
And then we can try some of the more obscure things that people did back then too. And then we'll also, of course, use the modern day equipment as well. But so what we're thinking is that we'll kind of do this as an across the board. Let's try old school and new school. And I'm actually telling people, if you want to come in Victorian clothes, feel free.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it'll only help. We had our friend Jeff Campbell, who came to
I actually just saw him today.
Bridgewater last year, dressed up in his outfit, and he got responses to it. So why not say to people, if you want to come dressed in your best Victorian era, or, you know, I know steampunk's popular with a lot of people now. Maybe you have a steampunk outfit. If you want to bring that and wear that, feel free. I think it'll only help
Might
kind of
draw some
activate
things,
what's
yeah.
going there. So, and that being said, we had also talked about another person. If Ty comes down,
Yes,
I know
I
that,
have to-
I know that he has
Oh,
the
yes.
outfit already.
I'll text him right now.
So tell him that if he does come down, he's definitely got to dress the part.
Yes.
But the other guest does not have to, because I know it's not really his thing.
I don't know if he has anything.
Yeah, right. I don't either, so I'm probably not going to dress that way. But the special guest that we're going to have is Porter will be coming again. So that's I'd like to say it's a great chance to get him into the house, but without giving anything away, it will be his second trip to Lizzie Borden's.
Yes. But he did say he is looking forward to going back. So
well, and also because, you know, when they're there and they're investigating,
it's busy.
You're filming for television. It makes it harder. So now you can really dive head first in.
Right.
But the episode that we filmed in Fall River is going to air either before or after that event. So
Yes, we don't know the order yet, but
if it does happen to air after, maybe we can get some sneak peek footage that we can show at the event.
we might be able to.
So I know people.
You do.
I have connections. So we'll see if we can pull that off. So anyway, that event's already half sold out.
Yes,
and we
it
haven't
is.
even mentioned the fact yet to people that Porter is going to be there.
Right.
So you might want to jump on Spooky South Coast now and get your tickets. And then once we get that event sold out, we're going to try and find some other stuff to do coming up later on in the fall. But also just a real quick mention while we're plugging things. Are there tickets left for John Brightman's event?
We have 4 tickets left.
4 tickets remaining
And you can
for
only
the
buy
SK
until
Pierce
Monday.
Mansion. So what happens on Monday if the tickets aren't sold? If there's still 4 tickets left, but the tickets are no longer on sale, is that just 4 less people that are going to be there?
Yeah.
So it's really stupid to not jump on this if you were thinking
Right.
about doing it, because you're just going to have those spots go to waste. But does that mean that I can have whatever food we were bringing for those 4 people?
I can inquire. I can absolutely inquire and see.
Are we doing food as part of that event?
I believe so.
Is it going to be pizza from across the street?
I believe so.
They have really good pizza.
They have really good food. They really do.
And this is in September 9th. We did an event there in November, and they were offering a Thanksgiving pizza.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm wondering if maybe we tell them, hey, it's fall. Can you do me up a Thanksgiving pizza?
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Special order.
So that event is for sale from Bright Star Promotions, which you can get to. Just go to Stephanie's Facebook page, and she'll direct you wherever you need to go to get those last 4 remaining tickets for the SK Pierce Mansion on September 9th. So when people are saying, hey, I'm looking for some stuff to do this fall that's creepy and spooky, there you go. There's 2 events right there.
I've had a lot of that lately, too. People are really getting into the spirit of the season this time.
Well, I think because people are finally starting to realize that if you want to do stuff in October and September, you got to start buying your tickets in the summertime, because those events tend to sell out pretty fast.
Agreed.
So, and also, just quick recap here, because I don't want to run out of time to talk about this other issue that we want to discuss, but we did have an event last Saturday.
We did.
And it was
insane.
Listen, I always say that when we go to these places, people say, do you have activity every time you go? And I have to put out the caveat that you don't always have activity. But we tend to always have stuff going on at these events. And last Saturday was no exception whatsoever. It was actually probably one of the most active nights I've ever had.
Right.
I was in the tavern the whole time, but
You were.
that's because a new layer had been peeled back in the investigation. I didn't plan to stay there the whole night.
Which we talked about, yes.
My plan was to kind of go around and check out, because that's what I did last year. I went around to the different buildings, and I got a chance to check out some of the other buildings. But it just so happened that in the first group, some weird stuff started happening in the attic of the Fearing Tavern that had never happened before. We were getting these mysterious sounds, and we were getting shadow figures. And we were getting very weird shadow figures. Like, very tall and... I don't want to say menacing, but you didn't exactly get a positive vibe from them.
Right.
And it just kept getting worse and worse as the night went on. Well, more and more profound, I'll say, as the night went on. And just some weird, strange things that were happening. So now we have a whole new avenue to explore when we go into the tavern. Because usually, I never spent a lot of time up in the attic.
I did at one point, and I don't get the warmest, fuzziest feeling from the attic.
What was interesting was it was actually it was one of the attendees had discovered something new, and we're like, oh, well, let's go up there and check it out. And then just kind of exploring that narrative of what he thought he had discovered, that's when all of a sudden we discovered these shadow figures, and then they stayed the whole night. And the weird part was when I was shining the laser light at the end of the night across them, and they weren't they were absorbing the light. They weren't you couldn't shine the laser light on them. They were like solid figures.
Interesting.
It was just very mind-blowing. So we'll definitely be going back there again.
Of course,
we want to make it an annual event for them. Very good turnout this year. So hopefully it's just growing and growing. But we will have our next event is Lizzie Borden's in September. So you can get those tickets at SpookySouthCoast.com. And if you're looking for the last 4 tickets for the S.K. Pierce event with Bright Star Promotions, don't wait on those, because what'd you say, Monday?
Monday's the last day.
Monday's the last day. So you're going to really be sorry because you want to talk about a place that has insane activity.
Yes.
That is the place. All right. Well, I do want to talk about one other thing before we get into things later on with our guest, Lon Strickler. But for those of you who are either investigators, or maybe you're a fan of some of the TV shows, or, at least if you have a rudimentary idea of the different equipment that's used in the paranormal, the ghost boxes are a pretty popular device. And you know that out of all of the different builds and all the different formats for these over the years, there's been all these little tweaks and changes and everything, but they're all still essentially the same. A guy came along a couple of years ago by the name of Steve Huff and claimed that he was revolutionizing ghost boxes. And right from the beginning, people started questioning what he was doing. People who had been doing this for a long time started questioning what he was doing. At first, he had been working with a lot of people, but then he kind of started insulating himself, and people were having their speculations about what it was that he was doing. Now, I just want to go on the record and say I have never directly worked with a Wonder Box. I have seen other people use them, but I chose not to because I have some problems with Steve Huff and the way that he does business. So I can't say from my own experiences how they work, but I have a lot of friends who have used them that say that they're really good. And I have a lot of friends that have used them that say they're nothing but a bunch of guitar pedals all wired together that are kicking out what you want to hear, and also all of Steve's videos are doctored.
Okay.
So I can't say one way or the other. But what I can say is, as a very unscrupulous businessman, at least in my opinion, here's a guy who every time a celebrity has died for the past couple of years, he's claimed that these celebrities are instantly contacting him that very same day on his devices.
Correct.
Because out of all the people in the world that a dead celebrity is going to want to talk to, they have to reach out to Steve Huff.
Not their family.
And he promoted these videos. He promoted these videos where he's talking with these people by buying advertising on Facebook, by buying followers by buying people on Twitter, by buying people on YouTube, is the allegation. Again, I don't have any proof that he actually, well, I mean, I've seen sponsored ads from him on Facebook, but essentially he built all of this by putting this attention on himself, mostly through claiming to talk to dead celebrities. And it was Robin Williams that really started to draw a lot of people's attention to him. Then, it was probably like a year, maybe a little over a year ago or so. I don't know the exact date, but the Constantinos, what happened with them.
Right.
We don't have to get into all of that.
Of course.
But two very famous paranormal researchers, heavily involved in ITC research, both die in a brutal fashion. Mm-hmm. And there was personal issues between the two of them that led to this.
Right.
For those who don't know the story, again, I don't want to get into the details. It was a murder-suicide, though. Mm-hmm. And the entire paranormal community kind of made this pact amongst themselves, both spoken and unspoken, that if Debbie and Mark reached out to anybody, they would keep it to themselves.
Right.
That you're not going to start using this as a way to promote yourself and promote what it is that you're doing. Well, not Steve Huff. They apparently reached out to him, even though he didn't work with them. Mm-hmm. You know, they reached out to him that very day. At least I don't think they worked together. So anyway, I have moral issues with the way that he's chosen to portray himself. Basically what he's done is he's put himself out there as the very antithesis of the correct way to do things, and then put that out to the general public as this is how we do things.
I think any good person would have moral issues with what he's doing. It is literally no different than what I deal with. I mean, obviously being a psychic medium, I just had this conversation this week about how other psychic mediums wake up one day and decide to do this because they can make money doing it. And that in turn allows them to prey on people's grief for their own gain and wealth. And it's the exact same situation, only different circumstances. He's preying on the fear of the unknown with people, and then the fascination of what could be, and becoming wealthy off of it.
This is the equivalent of if you decided that you wanted to sit at home and make a video on the day that Robin Williams died,
right,
of you claiming to have him come through and talk to you. And there are psychics that do that, mediums that do that.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
We tend to kind of mock them behind their backs.
Or publicly.
And say, can you believe this person? Like, first of all, he's probably not talking to you.
No.
But even if he is,
right,
you shouldn't be basically trying to use his suicide to get attention for yourself. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we see this happen whenever any celebrity dies, that people are going to want to post their own thoughts and feelings about it. And people are going to kind of turn it into something about themselves. That's to be expected.
Right.
So if you wanted to say, you know, Chris Cornell died, Chris Cornell killed himself, and I was very much a fan of his music growing up, and it spoke to me and it meant something to me, and you put that's just kind of letting your feelings out there. You know, that's not really using somebody's death.
You and the rest of the world, because everybody felt like that. You know what I mean? Music moves people, so that's normal.
But and I'm saying, like, I'm okay with that if people want to kind of do that. I think when people start using it as a way to kind of market their own skills, their own abilities, then you're crossing a line.
I think
at the very least, it's bad taste.
Anytime somebody uses a death or a tragic event in our history to promote themselves and what they do in order to gain something from it is disgusting.
I can't tell you how many posts I see.
We had to talk about this, 2 days ago? Right.
That it's, you know, there's people who have abilities and have to lead off every sentence of everything that they post with that. As
a psychic medium.
And I think that is...
It's gross.
It is.
So gross. I don't understand it. And
I mean, that would be like me launching myself into every political discussion on all my friends' social media posts and saying, well, as a journalist, because I think that should make my opinion mean more because I sit here and read a computer with the news on it all day.
Right.
Like, that makes my opinion more valid than yours.
It doesn't. all it is an opinion. But I mean, we've talked about me personally, having this ability and how much I fought against it. And Tim, you were a huge part of me fighting against that ability and not wanting to come out with it. And even now being thrown into the public eye like I have been and still working, with the people I'm working with or on TV or anything like that, I still don't go on social media and say anything about who I am and what I can do and lead off a discussion in that manner.
Well, because it would just be obnoxious.
It would, and it is. And there's a time and a place for that. It's not on social media to gain more followers, to, throw out, I'm doing readings for free on Facebook Live, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. And I don't understand it. Yes, social media is a great place to gain business for whatever it is that you do with this life. But to prey on people in order to gain money by claiming that you can do things like he does or like other mediums do.
Let's just bring this back to Steve Huff for a minute, because and again, I don't bash people, at least publicly. I mean,
well,
we all know what I talk about off there. No, seriously though, I don't bash people on this show. We've never really used this show as a platform to bash other people. There have been times where we've called people out for things. There have been times where we've told people to avoid certain individuals.
Right.
And,
that's only after something public has come out.
And we give you the reasons why.
Absolutely.
We tell you why you shouldn't pay,
or tell people to do their research.
Hey, if you want to go and buy this guy's equipment, that's on you, but just be aware of this story. Mm-hmm. And we've also never shied away. I mean, look at Danny Roberge. He's a guy who's caused a lot of problems for himself, and he'll be the first to admit that.
Right.
But that doesn't stop me from using EchoVox. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't stop me from recommending it and from having him on the show.
Right.
If anybody said to me, hey, I was like, whatever, but I don't think that affects the work that he does. Correct. But the work that Steve Huff is doing is directly affected by the snake oil salesman feeling that I get from him. Mm-hmm. So this week, first of all, there's been a couple of his Wonder Boxes that have sold for ridiculous amounts of money. Like they're not cheap to begin with.
Right.
He's already charging like $1,000, $2,000 for something that's basically just, a couple of $100 worth of parts. Mm-hmm. And I can say that because people are building them.
Yes.
The same way he does. And they're telling me exactly, here's how much I paid for this. Here's how much I paid for this. And the only reason they're paying that much money is because they're going to the music store and buying the guitar pedals for retail.
Right.
Instead of trying to get used ones or whatever. So the devices are already very expensive. But he starts putting them on eBay, because the demand for them is so great.
Right.
And he hand makes everyone, so he can't keep up with them. So he puts them all up on eBay. He puts a couple of them up on eBay. And one of them got over $5,000.
Wow.
And you can say to yourself, well, that's ridiculous that he's charging that much money. But he can come back and say, I didn't charge that much money. I put it up on auction. That's what people were willing to pay for it. The market set the value. So when I saw that happen, I was like, well, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts saying, you know what, it's not fair for me to have to take orders for them and not be able to put, so I'm just going to start making them, putting them on eBay. So I complained to somebody about one of those going for, I think it was like $5,500. Mm-hmm. And the person who is in the know wrote back to me and said, well, you didn't see the one that sold before that.
Oh, no.
That one was over $10,000.
What?
So I'm like, he basically made like what half of these paranormal investigators that are out there make a year at their job over the past couple of months just selling these boxes.
I want to know who purchased that for that amount of money.
Believe me, so do I. And so, whatever. These couple of boxes have sold for big money, and they generally sell for big money anyway. So this past couple of weeks, my phone was blowing up about it last week. I think it was last Saturday. My phone was blowing up about it. People were asking me about it. So what had happened was, apparently Steve Huff has been having what he felt was demonic activity coming through these boxes.
Good enough.
What he felt was actually Satan himself coming through this box and making threats towards Steve. And so Steve has decided to retire from the paranormal because he doesn't want to have to deal with these negative entities.
Thank you, Satan.
Which, by the way, also led to all of the throngs of people commenting under his videos with, I told you this was going to happen. I've been battling these demons for 25 years. So there's that. I feel really bad about having to go down this path because, like, I don't personally believe in demons, but then I also look at somebody like Keith Johnson and say he hasn't been wasting his life fighting something that isn't there. You know, he's been battling something.
Correct.
I don't know what it is, but he's been battling that. But, like, let's say that not everybody that picks up a Ouija board, or not everybody that decides to open themselves up to spirit communication, you know, every little angry sounding voice that comes through is not the devil.
Oh, absolutely not. And how many times have either of us come across something that sounds so mean and scary or threatening, but it's just a spirit that's either playing jokes or using a scare tactic in order to continue to do what they're doing and being left alone while doing it? It's not Satan.
I mean, I don't want to even play the clips on the show and even give it that much justice, but you can watch it on YouTube and you can see for yourself.
Now, my question is, and I joked before and said, thanks, Satan. Is this truly him leaving the paranormal? Or is this just more attention?
Well, that's my biggest thought whenever anything like this happens, is it's just a marketing ploy.
Right.
You know, it's just a way to say...
So the next one sells for $15,000.
Or so that, well, that's the thing, is like you're going to be auctioning them off. Now the price is going to go up because people are, he's going to say, well, I'm not going to make these anymore, but I'm going to sell off all the rest of my boxes because I don't want them around anymore. Mm-hmm. He apparently, the one that he made that's been communicating with the devil, he apparently took a hammer to it and smashed it.
Yeah, sure he did. So if they're all made the exact same way and they all work the exact same way, who's to say that Satan is not going to come through any of them?
Well, they don't all work the same way.
Okay.
Like certain ones have different tonalities and, you know, depending on the equipment that's used. They all function in the same basic way.
Okay.
But like certain ones have certain tones and certain sounds and you know, like certain ones can communicate better. It was the same thing with Frank's box when Frank was still making his boxes.
So they're all unique.
Certain boxes got certain things and other ones couldn't. You know, a voice could come through on one and not on another. But still, the fact that this is just, in my eyes, I just see it as a marketing ploy, like you said, to drive up the prices as he's liquidating, if that's part of it. But also, there's the other side of it, too. There's also the ridiculous adoration and adulation that will come from this of people saying, don't quit, Steve, we need you.
Yeah.
And so then you get
voice.
like everybody that will be fighting for you.
Yep. Well, I don't know. I mean, I could say so much. Obviously, I can't. But a person that cared about the well-being of others would stop altogether. And if he's truly spooked by this, then he wouldn't sell off anymore. He wouldn't continue in this. He would, you know, drop off, disappear. And
if he thought it was really the devil coming after him, he would be taking a hammer to everybody's box that already bought one from him.
Yep. If you truly care. And honestly, any entity, spirit, ghost, whatever it is that you would like to call it, it doesn't need a special box to come through and communicate. It can communicate any old way that it wants to, through any piece of equipment that it wants to, through any medium. Heck, it can, I almost said something different. It can speak through any of us or to any of us. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need a special box. So any of those boxes can do it.
I just want to point out that for a guy who is quitting the paranormal, all of his YouTube videos are still up.
Oh, okay. All right.
And 4 days ago, he posted a video called Goodbye for Now.
Oh, for now. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
No. All right.
So a 22-minute video saying, you know, goodbye for now. I'm good with watching that. I don't even need to know what it says. But basically, I'm going to assume that he's going with the perspective of, you know, I'm going to just go away for a little while and let this all calm down, and then I'll come back and see what happens.
I
mean, I don't want to get into a fight with the people in the chat room, but we do have a comment in the chat room that the EVPs are from demons, but they're not. I can say with pretty much, you know, pretty good amount of surety that they're not.
Listen.
Now, are they from something bad and something that means ill intention? Maybe.
I mean, why not? But
right.
How many? I mean, all right. So in the time that I've been doing this, which is a very long time, I have come across what I would consider legitimately evil. It is very rare. And those were personal experiences. Those were not me going out and looking for them. Going out and looking for them, I have come across very negative things, but things that I would say are demonic, no. And any researcher that you talk to can tell you if they have come across things, because, having a conversation with people like the Johnsons, who are demonologists, will tell you that it's still rare to come across things like that.
Right.
So why now? Why this? Why him?
I just look at it like this. The box that he uses, no matter what he wants you to think, is not really all that much more spectacular than what other people are building. And the process behind it, and the thought behind it, and the basic functionality behind it is not that much different than anything that we're doing in trying to communicate with spirits. Right. So if that's the case, why aren't we all being inundated by these demons? Because let's just look at the idea of a demon from the perspective of its goal is to attack and possess human beings. If that is what we think that demons are out to do, then we would all be getting contacted by them.
Right.
And they would be trying to take all of us down. There are people who have done much better things in the paranormal for way longer than Steve Huff. That would be much better targets for demons.
Yep.
But it just goes back to that idea of we have to think that he's special and he's different. So why wouldn't the guy that Robin Williams talks to also be the guy that Satan talks to? When in actuality, if demons cared enough about... I don't even think... If a demon was real and intended to possess people, paranormal researchers would be the last people they would be looking to possess.
Right. Because they're aware of it.
Right. And because it would serve no function to possess a paranormal researcher. Because if anybody was like, oh, I need help, they'd be like, well, you deserve it.
Right.
You're the one that went looking in those corners. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
We would be the low-hanging fruit for them. And they would be possessing all of us because why not?
Right.
So in one way, they wouldn't want anything to do with us. But in the other way, why not take advantage of us? So I don't know. All I know is if you paid $5,000 for one of those, you're stupid. I'm sorry. Are we on YouTube? You're fucking stupid.
We are on YouTube.
Because...
Oh, and I totally censored myself before.
Well, I mean, we do put on iTunes that we don't swear.
Do you?
And we do have we
can cut that out.
The Dark Matter Radio Network is nice enough to run us, and we're not supposed to swear on that either. So, but come on. And if you paid $10,000,
I can't.
You're beyond.
That's not okay. Like none of that is okay. Please, I need to know who bought that. I need to know who spent that money.
I know who didn't buy it.
Okay.
It's going to be our guest in the next hour, Lon Strickler.
Yes.
Because he's way smarter much smarter. Well, no, wait. That was fine. He's way.
Listen. We talked about grammar.
I know.
We just talked about it. And
I've been having a significantly less caffeine this week than usual. So, just out of circumstance more than anything.
Okay.
But then you get here and you sit down on Saturday night. You're like, I need to be on my game, and I'm like, I brought water.
I know. I was wondering where your big gulp was.
Because I don't want to be up all night. I don't want to be up till like 3 or 4 in the morning. I've been up till like 4. I've had a very rough week this week of being able to fall asleep because I've been watching too much CNN before I go to bed.
Uh-oh.
And it's been driving me crazy.
Not good.
All right, so why don't we try and connect with our guest, Lon Strickler. I'm going to